Vex is easily one of the strongest Vault Hunters in Borderlands 4 right now, and this build leans right into that. By stacking kill skills and running high fire rate weapons, we can end up with non-stop firepower, barely ever reloading, and basically always having kill skills active. It's a lot of fun, so let's get right into the build. Let's start by going over the skills for this build. We're going to focus heavily on the Incarnate Action skill tree here. And the skill that we want to really focus on is the Mortal Terror skill, which gives us a chance to activate kill skills when critically hitting enemies, and if we max it out with 5 points, we have a 5% chance of proccing this ability. If we couple this skill with the Target Prescience skill, which basically means Vex's gun damage gains critical hit chance against any part of enemies, there's a 15% chance, regardless of where we hit the enemy, we're going to get a critical hit. And then there's a 5% chance on top of that we activate a kill skill. So, especially if we're using a high fire rate weapon, we can actually target or trigger critical hits pretty quickly and frequently, even if we're not hitting critical hit parts of an enemy. Then from there, we have the Guns and Needles skill, which basically kill skills restore rep kit cooldown. This is great since with 3 points in it, every time we're getting a kill skill, we're dropping our cooldown by 20% or 21%, which really helps out because we are triggering the kill skills fairly frequently, and we're basically able to just keep our rep kits up full time with this maxed out in 3 points. From there, just to get us to the next level, we want to put 2 more points into Grave Sights. So kill skills, Vex gains increased critical hit damage, and gun handling. So this is just good for extra damage and kill skills, and we can have a stack duration of 10 and a max stack of 3. And basically all of our max stacks are going to have 3 extra stacks on them because of some skills we're going to take later on. The next skill we want to look at is Bloodletter, and we're not really leaning into bleed here with this build, but this is arguably one of Vex's best skills, so it's kind of hard to pass up on it on this build. And if you kind of add up all the chances here in damage and duration and stacks, you're basically looking at an extra 1200% damage for your weapons, so it's almost always worth just taking this ability, so we're going to add it for this build as well. From there, we're then going to get the Grave Implements skill, which is another kill skill, and basically Vex and our minions gain increased gun damage for a duration, so we do have 20% over 10 seconds for 3 stacks, and again, that's actually going to be 6 stacks later on in the build. So from here, the next ability we want to look at is Grave Power, and this is exactly what I was talking about earlier, where Vex's kill skills gain increased max stacks. So with 3 points in it, we now have 3 more stacks. So for our Grave Implements, we have a max stack of 6. For our Grave Sights, we have as well 6. Bloodletter would get 23. So it's just extra. It basically just boosts all of our kill skills and gives us extra stacks. So it's definitely worth taking. It's pretty powerful. Just basically boosts every skill overall. From there, we then have, again, the Target Prescience that we kind of mentioned earlier. This is kind of a staple of the whole build. This is what's letting us trigger more critical hits. I mean, you could just focus on hitting the actual critical hit spots on an enemy, which is still worth doing, but this just kind of gives us extra critical hit chance for any shots that you're missing, or you're not going to hit every shot likely, so this is definitely worth taking. Gives us a 15% chance of triggering critical hits anywhere on an enemy, so definitely a very powerful ability, and we want to put 5 points into that. So from there, our next skill we're going to look at is Drinkful. So whenever Vex deals gun damage, she gains a stack of Drinkful, increasing her fire rate, and you do get 0.6% per stack when you have all 5 points invested in it, up to a maximum stack of 50. And this lasts for 5 seconds and basically just boosts her fire rate by 30%, which is pretty significant. And I find with this build, with all the buffs for fire rate, we can increase her fire rate pretty high and put down a lot of damage, which helps us as well because each hit we're looking to trigger a critical hit. So this is just going to let us hopefully trigger even more critical hits. From there, our next ability, again, is the Mortal Terror. And this is kind of the centerpiece of the whole build. It's just letting us trigger all these kill skills without actually having to kill enemies. So we definitely want all 5 points in this as well. So from there, we're going to take the Vibe Check Capstone. And this is basically just makes Eldritch Blast a charge skill as well. And kind of just makes the Eldritch Blast a little more powerful. What we're really looking for, though, is the Augment Witchy Trigger Finger. And this is sort of similar to our kill skills in that basically dealing damage with Eldritch Blast or Phase Explosions will fully refill ammo for Vex's current gun and grants a stack of Witchy Trigger Finger, increasing gun damage for a duration. So this is awesome. Basically 15 stacks plus 3 with our Grave Power ability. And we're getting 15% per stack. So this is pretty powerful by itself, just with the added gun damage. But the other thing that's awesome about it is that it refills our weapons ammo. It does pull from reserves. It doesn't actually generate ammo, but it basically means that every time we're activating our Eldritch Blast ability, we're filling up our weapon. And you can kind of see that it's just going to mean that we're able to constantly be firing, because as we're firing, we're going to be triggering kill skills, and I'll show kind of another ability that's going to help us refill our Eldritch Blast. So as we're shooting, we're getting critical hits, we're getting kill skills, which is refilling our Eldritch Blast, and then as we're firing Eldritch Blast, we're reloading our weapon. And so you can kind of see we're just basically always firing our weapon and always firing Eldritch Blast. So it's pretty powerful using these combinations. So from there, we're going to go over to the Phase Familiar action skill tree. And the first action skill we're going to look at is Sanguine Fiends. And this is another kill skill. Vex and her minions restore health during a kill skill. And with 5 points, it gives us 20% health restored. So probably not the strongest of our kill skills, but it's definitely nice to have. Kind of adds some survivability to the build. You'll see kind of later, especially with the gear we're running, this is not as important, but it does let us get down kind of into some more kill skills. So not a bad one to take. From there, we then want to get Grave Assault, which again is another kill skill. And this one's for fire rate. Vex and her minions gain increased fire rate for a duration. So we got fire rate of 7.5% per stack. So that's 10 seconds and 3 stacks. So we're getting about 20-ish% fire rate increase plus the 3 more stacks. So about 40% fire rate, which again is just great. The more bullets we're putting down, we can then trigger more critical hits. So this kind of just feeds back into the kind of feedback loop of this build. So definitely worth taking this skill. And then the last one we're going to take, and just because we just don't have enough points, we're going to take only 3 points in this one, which is Grave Fiends. And kill skills, Vex and her minions deal increased damage. So with this, we're going to get 7.5% per stack. Again, 3 stacks, or actually 6 stacks. So we're looking at about 40% damage from this ability as well. So this really helps as well. Just kind of gives us more damage on top of all the fire rate increases we're stacking here. So from here, we only have 3 more points. And I said earlier, Phase Familiar, this is the Dead Ringer tree. But if we go then over to the Phase Familiar tree, the last skill we want to look at is the Grave Sustenance skill. And the reason we're taking this is that kill skills restore a percentage of missing action skill duration. So basically, as you're getting kill skills with Eldritch Blast active, you're able to basically keep it up, hopefully full time, with this ability. And I put 3, I kind of experimented. I had 1 point in it, just hoping that would be enough to kind of give me 5%. I found that I was, my Eldritch Blast, I wasn't able to keep it up long enough. So I ended up putting 3 points in here. You may want more or less, but basically you're trying to find the sweet spot where you're able to keep your Eldritch Blast up, hopefully full time with kill skills and triggering kill skills. And so this is just a great ability to have, because you're going to want to keep your Eldritch Blast up, as well as helps get you your charges as well. So with all the skills figured out, let's start looking at the gear. So I like using the Kaoson for this build. It feels really good. Basically, you're just able to stack a lot of stickies on enemies, and this is really good for bossing. You can basically just stack tons of stickies, and kind of once you reload, you're just going to create a ton of damage. So the Kaoson, and it does have a really high fire rate, so you're basically able just to constantly put out stickies on enemies, specifically, you know, bosses. But this is a great weapon. It feels really good on this build. So I like using this for bossing. Another weapon that I think does really well with this build is the Wombo Combo, which is just a strong weapon overall, but basically rockets automatically fire from the underbarrel, which is awesome. It's a lot of fun, and I actually like using it more for mobbing. So this is kind of more of my bossing weapon. This is more of my mobbing weapon just because you're kind of getting that splash damage, and it also just has a really high fire rate at 13. Oh, at least mine has 13 per second, so it's really good. These are kind of my two go-to weapons that feel really good. I mean, at the end of the day, you're really just looking for high fire rate weapons, high DPS, but high fire rate, because you're looking just to trigger those critical hits as much as you can, and as frequently as you can, so that you can kind of keep getting more kill skills stacking. From there, kind of two weapons that I also put on the build and found pretty good. I really like the Whiskey Foxtrot. It's another weapon that has really high fire rate, 16.9 rounds a second. Doesn't have any other kind of crazy abilities or kind of big abilities like the other two weapons that I showed, but it's just an overall good weapon. I like using it. Definitely would recommend it. And then the Superconducting Plasma Coil is also just a really strong weapon. Another high fire rate weapon. Really, you can kind of run what you want here. If you don't have these, I would really try to farm for the Kaoson and the Wombo Combo. Those are just kind of two really strong weapons for the build, but really you're just looking for high fire rates. So from there, we then have the rep kit. So I'm running the triple bypass here, and why I really like it, I think it's the only rep kit right now that has 3 charges, and which is awesome. And then you have a 30% chance to replenish a charge on kill, and because we're triggering so many kill skills, we're basically always going to have a rep kit up, which is awesome. And I'll show you kind of once we get into our specializations why I think the triple bypass is the best here, because it basically just lets us constantly heal, which is important, but it'll kind of help us with our Eldritch Blast if we ever do lose our Eldritch Blast, either if we're just not able to get enough kill skills or we go down. The triple bypass is awesome for that. Another thing that I was playing around with was the Shiny War Paint, and basically because of its chrome ability, activating it, you get a 30% fire rate, 30% movement speed, and just you can also kind of reduce its cooldown further with when you take damage. So this is pretty fun. It's kind of more of helping with our fire rate. And I have the Enrage ability on mine, which gives me an extra 30% damage and 15% damage reduction. So it's kind of good for just kind of boosting up our damage and kind of tankiness of our build. But I find it's not, it doesn't have the 3 charges that I mentioned earlier with the bypass, which I think are just more important for this build. But the Shiny War Paint, especially if you don't have the triple bypass, I think the Shiny War Paint's pretty fun too. Then from there, we have our Ordnance. In this build, I am running it, but I don't think it's necessary. I do have the Penetrator Knife. This is going to make the build stronger. Probably makes most builds stronger, but I don't think it's necessary. So you can kind of run what you want, you know, if you want to run like a Swarm Grenade or just any kind of Ordnance you have. But if you do have a Penetrator Knife, this technically is the best thing to run. It's not necessary, but again, we're leaning into critical hits, so if you're just trying to kind of get lots of kill skills, this is going to be what you want. It's basically you can just trigger lots of kill skills with this, as well as just putting out an insane amount of damage. But again, not necessary. I wouldn't worry, because this is kind of hard to get. You can't there's no dedicated drops for it, so run it if you have it. If not, don't panic. This isn't kind of necessary. We definitely aren't building the build around it. So from there, we're going to look at our class mods. couple options, but I think for this build, what I've really found is strong is the Teen Witch. I have a shielded Teen Witch here. And so when Vex has maximum health, her lifesteal partially applies to shields. When Vex has maximum shields, her lifesteal partially grants overshield. So this basically just lets us have a ton of survivability. I find I hardly go down with this class mod because of that, so it's really good for that. I like it, but I guess another option you could look at is, say, a Scion mod, and this is probably better for just pure damage because of bleed. Like if you're just looking for highest numbers, I think just bleed is always going to give you that. So this is one option, but I really like the shielded Teen Witch better, just the Teen Witch better, just because it has that life steal, and I just find my shields are always up. Really the only time I find I go down is if I, it's usually when I'm using the Wombo Combo and I kind of shoot myself or shoot a rocket that kind of puts me down too close to myself. So this just gives us insane survivability. So then next up we have our shields. For this, I'm running the Super Soldier, and so its big ability, Power Play, when energy shields fills, grants overshield when energy shield is full, grants 25% fire rate, 25% movement speed, and regens 1 ammo per second. So the fire rate's really nice here. You're basically, you're going to have full shields, hopefully with the Teen Witch. So with the Teen Witch, you're able to keep the Super Soldier's abilities up, which just helps us with more fire rate. We're pretty close to about 100% fire rate increase with all of our abilities and this. So it's just nice to have. I think another fun shield you can run, and this kind of leans into our kill skills, is the Fireworks shield, which on kill spawns missiles that home in on nearby enemies. So obviously we are triggering a lot of kill skills with this, so this is really good for mobbing. And if you don't have, say, the Super Soldier, this is actually a pretty easy shield to farm. You get it from Splash Zone, basically the first boss in the game, so he's pretty easy to farm. This is not a bad shield. It's actually maybe better for mobbing. I tend to just run the Super Soldier, but I did play around with this, and this is a lot of fun. Basically just spawning tons of missiles. So that's kind of our shields. And then last up, you can just run kind of whatever enhancement you want for whatever weapons you've got. I'm running a Vladoff here just because the Kaoson and the Wombo Combo are both Vladoffs. So, but if you decide to run another gun, or just you're using another manufacturer, I would just run whatever enhancement you have just to kind of boost up your weapons abilities. So now that we have our skills and our gear figured out, the last thing we can look at is our specializations. And for this, you're going to want to focus on Brute, Sharpshooter, and Runner. So the first one we took in kind of the Runner tree here to get 10 points down. So that and the Runner will give us just kind of increased movement speed, which is kind of nice. We're not really leaning into melee here, but more of this is just to get us down to kind of our first ability here. So we want Bullet Train. So Vault Hunters can now hip fire when sprinting and gain gun damage the faster they move. So this is just nice. Basically 15% gun damage when we're moving, which we're moving pretty often in this game. So this is basically just a free 15%. So then from there, we now also have I guess if we should kind of focus more on the Sharpshooter, 20 points into that to kind of get us down to Daredevil, but also our second ability. But Sharpshooter, just giving us extra gun reload speed and gun accuracy, which is nice. Though we don't really need that gun reload speed, hopefully, if we're triggering our Eldritch Blasts. But still nice to have. Daredevil, just action, skill, cooldown rate. Nice to have, but we're kind of going to take care of that in a sec anyways. Because we're taking the Now with Caffeine ability, which basically means reduce action skill cooldown whenever a rep kit is activated. So with this, every time we use a rep kit, we are getting 25% skill cooldown reduction. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, why the triple bypass is so good. So if you have 3 charges and you're basically, say you go down or you aren't able to keep your Eldritch Blast up, you can basically just knock 75% of the cooldown off right away just by using your rep kits 3 times, and you're able to then just keep getting more rep kits by kind of triggering more kill skills. So you're pretty much, with this now with Caffeine, able to get your Eldritch Blast kind of back up right away if you need to. So it's kind of a nice safety net. I mean, hopefully you shouldn't have to need to use this, because with our Grave Sustenance ability, you know, we are kind of refilling our action skill on kill skills, but it's just good to have. Sometimes I find I do kind of run out of Eldritch Blast, or I go down. I can then just trigger or use my 3 rep kits and get it up pretty quick. So from there, if we kind of go over to our Brute Tree, from there, Vault Hunter gains increased gun damage. This is just nice, just an extra, with 10 points, an extra 8%, 9% into gun damage, which just is always going to help any build. We also get the Killer ability here, so the Vault Hunter gains increased critical hit damage and status effect damage, so kind of nice to have. But what we're really looking for here is Contamination, which critical hits grant increased status effect application chance. So, I mean, we're triggering lots of critical hits here, and you get 10% status effect application chance for 10 seconds and 10 stacks, so which is actually 13 stacks, so 130% chance to or increased chance to apply status effects, which is nice, especially given bleed is a status effect application, so this just kind of helps it with bleed. So overall, just a good skill to have. So now that we have all of our skills, gear, and specializations figured out, just kind of talking about the one drawback, or the thing to be mindful with this build, is that the ammo consumption is really high because of our high fire rate, and just the fact that we're constantly able to reload using our Eldritch Blast. So we're kind of just chewing through ammo, and you can see here my assault rifle and SMG ammo, because of my Kaoson and Wombo Combo. I've basically just chewed all my ammo up. I do find kind of in longer engagements, I either need to look for ammo, or I might need to switch over to one of the other weapons. So it's not a deal breaker. The build's still really strong, but definitely something you want to be mindful of with this build. So what do you think of this Vex build? And are there any other builds you're running in Borderlands 4? If this video helped, feel free to leave a like, and if you want more Borderlands 4 content, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching.